Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I want to begin by acknowledging the sensitivity and gravity of the subject we're discussing today. The events we are about to examine involve violence, loss, and strategic escalation, and it's important to treat the topic with care. That said, this review aims to analyze what appears to have happened, explore the weapons and tactics involved, assess possible motivations and reactions, and consider longer-term implications. I will rely on available media reports, open-source intelligence, and comparative conflict analysis, but nothing here should be taken as definitive until full verification emerges. Reports indicate that Palestinian fighters launched a devastating attack on an IDF convoy, deploying what observers call new advanced weapons. The result, the convoy was crushed, suffering heavy damage, destroyed vehicles, and casualties. Videos circulating online show charred hulkied-out vehicles, burning remnants, twisted metal, and what appear to be missile impact marks. In some clips, vehicles lie disabled on roadside embankments. In others, columns are broken, scattered, and incapacitated. The visual evidence suggests a high-impact, coordinated strike rather than a stray hit or isolated sabotage. Local media, resistance outlets, and social media narratives claim this is a major blow to Israeli ground forces, possibly emblematic of a shift in asymmetric capabilities. Given the fog of war, we must be cautious. Propaganda, disinformation, and exaggeration are always factors. But even discounting optimistic claims, the scale of damage visible, the apparent precision of strikes, and the narrative consistency across sources point to a serious, intentional operation. In the following, I break this down into three major sections: what likely occurred, what weapons and tactics seem involved, and what the broader strategic repercussions could be. Let's begin with what likely occurred. The scenario seems to follow a classic ambush model, modified by new technology. A military convoy moves along a predictable route or terrain with limited cover. Opposition forces, aware of its timing, prepare a kill zone. The fighters position themselves in concealed vantage points, possibly in elevated terrain, adjacent infrastructure, or hidden behind natural cover. They wait until the convoy enters the most vulnerable segment of its path, perhaps a choke point, narrow road, or terrain where maneuver space is reduced. At the opportune moment, they launch a salvo of strikes, focusing first on lead and tail vehicles to trap the middle portion. As the convoy is immobilized, additional firepower is aimed at command modules, support trucks, and heavy armor, maximizing destruction before the defenders can organize a response. In this particular incident, from videos and reports, the strike seems to have occurred swiftly and decisively. The lead vehicle is often seen disabled or destroyed, blocking forward motion. Some subsequent vehicles may have attempted to maneuver off-road, but they are then hit or exposed. Others are engulfed in flames, disabled by direct hits. The defender's counterfire appears minimal or too late, perhaps only in isolated bursts. The attackers seem to withdraw before a full counterattack arrives. The result, a convoy broken, casualties inflicted, material losses inflicted, and a psychological shock delivered. Now, turning to the second piece, what weapons and tactics were likely used? To bring down such a convoy, especially if armored or protected, requires more than rudimentary arms. Several possibilities present themselves, either singly or in combination. 1. Advanced anti-tank guided missiles, ATGMs. Modern ATGMs with tandem warheads can penetrate reactive or composite armor. If Palestinian fighters have gained access to systems like Cornet, TOW variants, or even locally modified systems, they could strike vulnerable points, engine compartments, side armor, rear, especially if the convoy is caught in motion or halted in place. Precision and timing matter, and if multiple missiles are launched in coordinated fashion, they can overwhelm protection systems. 2. Loitering munitions or kamikaze drones. These drones hover or patrol overhead until a target is identified, and then dive to strike critical spots. In an urban or semi-urban environment, they can fly over the tops of vehicles, bypassing heavy frontal armor and hitting roofs, air intakes, or exposed systems. Multiple such drones in parallel can saturate air defenses, distract countermeasures, or strike in a swarm. Some footage from recent clashes in other theaters shows precisely this pattern, small drones striking from above, while ground missiles strike from lateral positions. 3. Precision-guided rockets or missiles from standoff distances. If armed groups have access to rockets with GPS/INS guidance or terminal seekers, they could launch from concealed positions at range, targeting the convoy's path or anticipated location. This allows them to strike without exposing themselves to direct counterfire. The risk is lower, and the payoff can be high if the target is moving as predicted. 4. Improvised explosive devices, IEDs, with shaped charges or explosively formed penetrators, EFPs, placed along the route. These devices, triggered by remote sensors, tripwires, or timed systems, could disable or destroy leading or trailing vehicles, trapping the convoy in a kill zone. Once immobilized, follow-up attacks with missiles or drones complete the destruction. This tactic has precedent in counterinsurgency environments and has been adapted in multiple conflict zones. 5. Electronic warfare, reconnaissance, or signals intelligence support. Disrupting communications, jamming GPS, intercepting radio channels, or feeding false data could delay or sabotage coordination within the convoy. Reconnaissance, via surveillance drones, informants, ground scouts, or signals intercept, would allow the attackers to know convoy timing, routing, security posture, and vulnerabilities. If attackers had real-time or near real-time targeting information, their strike precision and timing would improve dramatically. Coordinating drone strikes and missile attacks requires tight communication and timing. EW support or clandestine intelligence assistance could tip the balance. 6. Combined arms approach. The most plausible scenario is that the attackers used a blend, first disabling maneuvers, IEDs or initial missile hits, then drones entering from above, then ATGMs finishing off the rest, all timed to maximize disruption and minimize defense response. The synergy of these methods can overwhelm even well-protected mechanized forces if done with discipline and planning. What stands out in the visuals is the extent of destruction, multiple vehicles burned, twisted, crumpled. Some appear broken in half, as if struck by high explosive force from powerful warheads. Others are flipped over or thrown clear of the road. This suggests not just small arms or rocket pods, but heavier, directed munitions. In some frames you see what looks like penetration scars, not random blasts but targeted hits. That reinforces the idea of guided weapons, carefully aimed. Now to the third and most consequential aspect, the strategic, operational, political, and psychological implications of this strike, if its reporting and visuals are credible. At the operational level, this attack suggests that Israeli ground convoys and logistics routes are more vulnerable than often presumed. Israel may need to revisit convoy doctrine, route planning, and security. The reliance on armor, air support, or surveillance may no longer suffice. Convoys might need escort drones, electronic protection, route clearing operations, active protection systems on individual vehicles, or decoy elements. The cost, time, money, risk, of every movement increases. Israel may restrict large-scale ground movements, rely more on aerial resupply, or break logistics into smaller, harder-to-target elements. At the strategic level, if Palestinian armed groups can repeatedly carry out such strikes, Israel's military dominance narrative is challenged. It signals that asymmetrical forces are catching up in terms of targeting and lethality. The balance of deterrence shifts, Israel must treat more of its movements as risky, and Palestinian groups gain confidence. This changes the psychological battlefield. Each successful attack becomes a morale booster, a propaganda tool, and potential leverage in negotiations. Politically, the incident can propel internal debates within Israel about military strategy, accountability, and security policy. Domestically, citizens may question vulnerability, cost of war, and whether alternative approaches are needed. For Palestinian leadership, they may use this as evidence of strength, legitimacy, or progress, something to showcase to local and regional supporters. In diplomatic forums, they may argue that they can now contest not just territories or symbolic spaces but Israeli military logistics directly. In the regional and international domain, arms transfer scrutiny will intensify. Allies of Israel might be pressured to help intercept advanced arms flows into Palestinian territories. Countries or groups alleged to assist Palestinian fighters may face diplomatic or covert pressure. Similarly, rival groups elsewhere may see this as a model to replicate or adapt. But there are countervailing considerations and risks. Israel is highly capable, both in intelligence and retaliation. Once it analyzes this strike, it will respond, militarily, covertly, or diplomatically. Infrastructure suspected of supporting weapons smuggling, command nodes, launch zones, foreign supply routes, all may be targeted. Israel may intensify airstrikes, raids, cyber operations, or special forces missions aimed at degrading future attacks. It may also invest heavily in countermeasures, anti-drone systems, jamming, better reconnaissance, improved armor, and active protection. Another risk, escalation. Each retaliation raises the chances of a broader conflagration or civilian harm. Urban environments, shared infrastructure, and population densities mean that collateral damage is almost inevitable. The political backlash may be severe. Moreover, the attackers might respond to retaliation by launching further operations in a spiral of escalation. The conflict could intensify beyond local engagements into larger-scale exchanges. Also, we must beware exaggeration. The narrative of a massive blow is powerful, but it may overstate lost vehicles versus reparable ones, casualties versus wounded, total destruction versus partial damage. Some imagery may be from prior incidents or composite compilations. Attribution may be unclear, multiple factions may claim the strike, even if only one was primarily responsible. Until independent verification, e.g. from credible military analysts, satellite imagery, signals intelligence, becomes available, the full magnitude remains uncertain. Another nuance, even if this strike is real and significant, that does not guarantee systemic vulnerability. Israel has robust logistics, redundancy, and technological depth. A single successful ambush, however dramatic, may not by itself upend the strategic balance. Israel's ability to recover, adapt, and retaliate remains considerable. The question is whether attacks like this become frequent, systematic, or unpredictable. One more point, supply chains and arms sourcing. How did Palestinian fighters acquire such advanced weapons? Possibilities include external support, state actors, proxy groups, black market weapons, smuggling via tunnels or sea routes, or reverse engineering and local modification. If external state actors provide assistance, the geopolitical stakes rise. If local production is involved, it suggests resilience and adaptability. Israel may focus on disrupting supply routes, clandestine networks, or foreign sponsors. Looking ahead, here are some potential dynamics to monitor. First, whether more strikes of this kind occur, if so, trending frequency, geography, and success rate matter. Second, how Israel adapts, whether it changes convoy doctrine, increases defensive systems, shifts to more aerial or modular operations, or revises its deterrence posture. Third, how retaliation unfolds, whether it is proportional, selective, or escalatory. Fourth, how this incident plays in the media, public opinion, and diplomatic arenas, both within Israel, in Palestine, and across the region. Fifth, whether other non-state or insurgent groups take inspiration or emulate the tactics, altering conflict dynamics elsewhere. I want to close by stressing that we must watch developments carefully. Verification is key, satellite imagery, signals intel, independent analysts will reveal more of the true picture. But even if some claims are overstated, the symbolism is powerful. That armed groups now seem capable of striking Israeli convoys with high-impact weapons is itself newsworthy. It demands that Israel reassess vulnerabilities and consider new doctrines and defenses. For Palestinian fighters, it offers a narrative of resistance and capacity, but also risks retaliation, exposure, and escalation. If you'd like, in our next video we can break down a specific video frame by frame, analyze weapon types based on impact signatures, compare with other conflicts, e.g. in Syria, Ukraine, Yemen, to assess lessons, and map out possible supply chains. Leave a comment if that interests you. Until then, thanks for watching, stay informed, and I'll see you next time.